But yes, sir, let's move on to the next set of conversation. We've seen that India has over 2,500 mutual fund schemes across 44 AMCs. The industry is large, but the gap between the products we build and the outcomes investors actually experience remains real. This panel brings together three leaders at the center of that question on fund categories, risk profiling, investor messaging, and what it actually means to bridge product and outcome. So to take this conversation ahead, I request Anuj Singhal, Managing Editor, CNBC Awaz, to join us on the stage. And, joining him is, I request Navneet Munot, who's the MD and CEO of HDFC AMC, to join us back for this session. Along with him, Sundeep Sikka, who is the MD and CEO Nippon Life India Asset Management, and Sid Swaminathan, MD and CEO of Geo BlackRock Mutual Fund. Please welcome them with a huge round of applause.
Thank you, Lavisha. Well, so good evening, everyone. Okay, good evening, everyone. Some more energy, yeah. So just some ground rules. I actually have only one, as all of you who have been to some of my events know. No phones, please, because if any phone rings, we'll auction it to the lowest bidder. So, all of you must be carrying very expensive iPhones. We don't want to see that going to, someone next door. So let's start this conversation. We have, of course, a marquee panel. I don't want to waste time introducing all of them again. Let me straight away get down to the business. Gentlemen, thanks a lot for joining us. Now, this topic is actually quite loaded, from product innovations to real outcomes. Sundeep, are we saying that mutual funds are focusing more on how to get more schemes rather than focusing on the best possible outcome for the investors? And going forward, if that's a perception that is there about the mutual funds, what should the mutual fund industry do to change it?
Well, first, thanks a lot for having us today. And I don't think so. I think mutual fund is trying to work too much on the schemes. Mutual fund industry is trying to working to get more and more investors into the industry. And I think one needs to give credit to the fact that I think in the last 10 years, I think where we have reached, especially I think by keeping things simple, by launching products like SIPs, I think what the industry has done is basically has created so much wealth for investors. And schemes are a part of that journey, but schemes are not the focus.
Okay.
So let me, again, I think while we can talk a lot about the success of the mutual fund industry, but one of the biggest things that I think we need to compliment the industry is by keeping things very simple. I mean, you do not have a scenario, where you have millions of investors coming from small cities and towns. I mean, when they are investing in capital markets through mutual fund schemes, I think what the industry has done is has tried to say that I think here's a scheme which is transparent. You know what you're investing in, you know what you're getting into, and has kept it very, very simple. Rather, I would go a step, ahead, when you say this, industry has also done a very phenomenal thing by not try to complicate, by launching very complicated products. Has kept it very simple, and the SEBI categorization has made it even more easier, whether the large cap, the small cap, the mid cap. And SEBI has also ensured more complicated products, which is like SIPs, SIFs and others, are in a different category. So I would not agree with this that the industry has been launching and working a lot on the schemes. Industry is trying to keep it simple and trying to get more and more investors.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt that mutual funds have delivered a lot of returns. But Navneet, coming to you, there are hundreds of schemes now, right, in the mutual fund industry. So are we genuinely innovating or just slicing the same cake differently?
I think one of the biggest innovation is the way we have simplified the way of investing through the SIP, that just by remaining disciplined, putting money every month after month, and not trying to time the market can result in that. In terms of the number of products, over the years, the way products have got launched is to meet certain need of a set of investors or a set of advisors and distributors. But the way the industry has compounded money in very simple products, what Sundeep talked about, I'll just echo that. In our industry, investor testimonials are not allowed. So we cannot publish the money that an individual investor or a distributor, what they have made by investing on a certain date because we have a certain format of performance disclosure. But I can say with deep pride and sense of satisfaction that while walking in, one of the distributors who's sitting here gave me a statement of his investments made in the year 2000 in some of our funds and the way money has multiplied. Now, these are like simple products. What has led to this multiplication of money or the compounding of the money is just remaining disciplined and remaining invested. Now, more number of products, I just think like you go to a restaurant, I mean, different restaurants will have like maybe a pizza with maybe onion, without onion, because there are certain people who don't have that, or maybe a pizza with a thin crunch, or maybe without that, or maybe with more cheese, less cheese. That doesn't mean that every pizza has to be exactly the same, but credit to SEBI, and this has only happened, and Sid has worked outside India, can add more. Only country where the amount of standardization, the uniformity and the comparability that SEBI has worked on, that every AMC can only have one large cap fund, one mid cap fund. What large cap is? The top 100 stocks in terms of market cap. Then you need to have a unified benchmark. The entire industry use benchmarks which are like very comparable. The way we disclose our performance. In US, you can have somebody who's investing only in Max 7 or investing in income securities or investing in dividend yielding stock or global value stocks, and everybody can have an S&P 500 as a benchmark. In India, it is not allowed. So I think there is a lot of standardization, there is a lot of work on comparability that has been done.
Okay. Of course, we have a lot of mutual funds listed now. Sid, yours is not yet listed, of course. So let me just ask you one question. Over the last few years, we've heard a lot about, factor investing, smart beta, thematic funds. How much of this is about growing the mutual fund industry versus growing the investor wealth?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think you need to think about it as a customer segmentation answer, right? So when you think about investors who are very early in their journey or yet to begin their journey, the story is completely different, right? That's why you need to simplify it. You need to, develop good habits, and Navneet is right. Like we have this amazing good habit of like the SIP investing, which does not exist elsewhere in the world, and we need to do more of that. So just getting people into the markets with simple to understand products and getting them into that discipline of investing through SIPs is crucial, right? Now we can help them as well. So to your point on the excessive number of funds, now for some of them that could be daunting and confusing. So simplification through education or through how do we simplify asset allocation, whether it's through model portfolios or advisory or whatever that is one piece that we need to work on. To your question on like the more nuanced exposure, so whether it's factor investing, thematic investing, we've talked about SIFs as well. There is still a space for that for the more advanced investor. And remember, we have all of that in India, right? We have had this tremendous growth over the last 5, 6, 7 years, where more and more people have come to the markets, they've been invested primarily in equities, developed their wealth, and then are now looking for differentiated strategies to diversify their portfolios. And once you get into that thinking, that's when these kind of peripheral strategies come into play. It's not for everyone, I agree, but there is a growing segment of the population, and I think they will continue to grow, that will want these specific exposures because it's a complement to their existing holdings.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Sundeep, I'll come to you as well, but Navneet, just a word on thematic funds, because, that's been the buzzword for quite some time now. But data shows that thematic funds actually come at the fag end of some kind of a rally, right? I mean, we saw with the defense fund, we saw with the EMS fund. So what's your take on that? Are you in favor of thematic funds or no?
So it's a journey, as Sid rightly mentioned, that as the investor starts a journey, they need to start with maybe a simple diversified equity fund, maybe a large cap fund or a flexi cap fund. As you evolve, as you become, get more sophisticated, understand the risk, want to take certain exposure, you have a core portfolio and then want to have a certain satellite of, let's say, taking exposure to certain themes, certain sectors, you can do that. There again, SEBI has done a lot of work in terms of ensuring that there is no too much of overlap between two sector and thematic fund within the same fund house. You cannot have three consumer funds by different names. The portfolios have to be very distinct. The theme has to be very distinct, and then only you can launch another fund. And the way the risk get highlighted to the end investor. But also it requires a lot of discipline on the distributor and on the part of the asset managers. You talked about the defense specifically. We were the first one in SDFC to launch our defense fund. We closed the NFO 2 days before the actual date of the closure because we thought that, I mean, the way money was coming in the first 3 or 4 days, we thought that expectations are not getting set rightly. It seems people are allocating more thinking that this fund will substantially outperform. It substantially outperformed, but still it's a thematic fund, and on the risk return spectrum, it's slightly higher. Immediately after the NFO, we closed it for lump sum subscription, and we said we'll only take the SIPs. And there was a period, I think probably one of the only open-ended fund, where for a period where we were not taking incremental SIPs also. Fund was doing well. The fund managers were positive on the structural long-term theme. But our fear was that the expectations are getting set based on the past returns, that in 1 year or so, if money is doubled, people thought that the fund would continue to deliver this kind of return. So I think every fund house and the distributors need to ensure that expectations get set rightly, and we don't encourage the recency bias where people look at a sector or theme based on the last 6 month and 1 year return.
Well, actually, that brings me to the next question, and Sundeep, I want you to answer that. We saw over the last 2 years many mutual funds stopping the small cap inflows or reducing or the lump sum inflows. Of course, we saw a resumption of that in the small cap space. Should mutual funds do that, or should mutual funds actually tell their fund managers, look, I mean, at the end of the day, people are investing. They want small cap investing, let them invest. As fund manager, you have to weigh your risk, you have to manage your risk, and you have to make sure that you still generate decent alpha.
I'll club you this question with the earlier question, also mathematic, because ultimately the theme for both the questions is the same.
Yeah.
It actually depends on what type of investors are you catering to. So let me give you our example. We have very retail investors, in small cities and towns, are almost 28 million investors. We have taken a little different view. I think we don't launch thematic funds. We have not launched NFOs. We believe, I think it is because investors many times get carried away with the fact that what is the flavor of the season, and they may not be so matured and too smart to understand this. The best is not to do it. I mean, we'll do that in our AIF, we'll do that in our PMS, but we will not do in the mutual fund scheme. And also, let me give you data which will help you to understand this. If you were to look at globally, Indian markets are still maturing. When we look at, especially, and this is even more true for the passive, which is simple, and you talked earlier about the factor and various things. Globally, if you were to see all global markets where you have passive, the mainline indices, which are the top 3 or 4 indices, they are 80 to 90% of the AUM. And that's also true in India. So effectively, whether you see Nifty, Sensex, BankX, gold. So investors typically make more wealth, investing in simple products. And when you talked about the innovation in the industry, the biggest innovation of the industry is that industry has kept it very simple. To your question on small cap, I think it is prudent. I think many times investors do get carried away by seeing what has happened in the past. And it is prudent, and I think you should appreciate, you earlier talked about the some of the AMCs are listed. I think you should give credit to the industry. How industry is maturing in spite of putting their own interest behind. I think they stopped the flows. The small cap funds, when the flows were stopped. So in our case, we had the largest small cap fund, which was about 60-70,000 crores, doing well, and saying that we are not going to taking money tells you how responsible the asset management companies in India are. They are no more into the asset gathering mode. They are being showing more responsibility towards the investors.
Oh, absolutely. And Sundeep, if you've seen me on CNBC Awaaz, even though it's a Moneycontrol event, let me just plug my channel as well. I have given mutual fund industry a lot of credit, but here I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. So, Sid, you want to weigh in on this? You have a bit of an easy task right now because you have only one scheme right now, right, Rishi? I think I keep talking to Rishi, but right now you have only one scheme, right? But you want to weigh in on this topic of thematic funds and small cap and the topics that we discussed?
Yeah, look, I agree with both Navneet and Sandeep. Right? I think firstly it has to be positioned correctly, so people have to be educated around what role it's going to be playing in their portfolios. And then yes, if there are genuine concerns around kind of the overall sector in terms of kind of the euphoria that's built around, and you need to like temper that. I think the industry is making those right kind of calls. Now we have to be careful we're not making it for the wrong reasons. Like it's not something as a function of there's illiquidity in the fund and that's why we're doing it. That's not what's happening here. It's much more at an industry level, not at a specific fund level, because that's the big kind of delta here. So 100% agree that when the time is right, these kind of checks and balances, just to kind of take a little bit of the pressure off the system, and then when the times are right, you kind of open that back up again. I think that's a very prudent measure to be taking.
Okay, let's move to a topic which is very close to my heart, and either of you can take this question, or maybe all of you. Why is our industry still talking about returns instead of goals? Won't a better way be to say that, okay, this fund, your fund, well advertised, it's generated so much returns, but how much should you have invested, say, particular years ago, to reach a particular goal? Because if you had invested, if you had done an SIP of 10,000 at 15% returns versus say 15,000 SIP at even 12% returns, the result would have been different. So should we move from talking about just returns to goal-based investing? Navneet, maybe you want to take it first?
No, I think the whole SIP book, the journey from 3,000 to 30,000 crores has happened because industry is talking beyond returns. And if you look at the most powerful campaign, the mutual fund Sahi Hai, the entire campaign is about power of compounding, not getting swayed by the volatility, ensuring that you invest in a disciplined manner. That's been the campaign, that don't get swayed. I mean, look at your goals for which you are investing, then remain on this journey, remain disciplined. Don't get influenced by the greed when the markets are very bullish. Don't get fearful when everything looks very pessimistic. And that has been the larger message of the industry as a whole. And there is no other place in the world, Anuj, where the entire industry, which competes with each other during the day, but collaborate and in a highly cohesive manner and present the case to the investor that this is the reason for which mutual fund exists. This is how you need to, identify your right goals, do the asset allocation, select the right fund, and then stay the course. This is something very, very unique that as an industry we take a lot of pride in.
Sandeep, you're itching to pitch in on this one.
No, I think I cannot agree more with you. I think it has to move towards a goal-based, and it is moving. The fact that as an industry we cannot talk directly about returns. We cannot say that I think 1 lakh has become 4 crore rupees over 30 years period. We are not allowed to say that. I think it's clearly the growth of the industry. The backdrop of this is basically silently it's all goal-based investing. The new life cycle funds which has also been launched by SEBI is a step towards that. I think the way I see every asset management industry across the globe, you go geography by geography, it matures. Initially, the first step is to get people into the asset management industry. These were the people who were investing in banks or gold in India, they came to mutual fund industry. You have to educate them what is mutual fund. I think the next step was basically to give them the confidence that you can create long-term wealth. And I think now, in the earlier session, Navneet talked about, how generation after generation things are changing. I think we see the new generation, I think the day they start their job, the first thing they do, they start SIPs. And the only difference is, whether we call it goal-based planning or not, they think very differently. The Gen Z, they think about, I'm going to be saving so that I can go for a holiday to this place, or, I can go to, a Taylor Swift contest and a concert kind of a thing. Their thinking is different. But indirectly, goal-based has already started, and it's getting better day by day.
Yeah. And if you ask my daughter...
There is a category solution-oriented funds where you have children fund, where you invest for children's education, and there are retirement funds where you invest money for retirement. I think industry can do a lot in growing those categories because there you are not choosing funds based on market capitalization or sector or themes or what you talked about, but looking at the goal and then investing, because what it brings in is the discipline that this money is for a certain goal and I will remain invested and I won't get swayed by intermittent volatility.
The SIPs did not stop in India because a lot of these were for goal-based. I think had this been a scenario, if people were not investing for a goal, the kind of turbulence we have seen for 2-3 years have been almost, I think investors have not made money, but the fact that people are sticking on to the SIPs, that tells you that I think investors are looking at, they have a goal in mind, they're sticking to it, and they are not getting swayed by the market turbulence.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I asked this question because, my daughter, she's 10, she asked me, Papa, have you saved enough money so that if I have to go for Taylor Swift concert worldwide tour, you'll be able to sponsor it? So that, got me thinking whether I've done enough or not.
Reason I give this example, this is the problem with daughters, they all want to go to Taylor Swift.
Sid, of course, you have worked, outside India. What's the difference that you've seen outside versus here in terms of goal-based investing? Do you think Indians are getting there in terms of proper goal-based investing, and are mutual funds helping them?
Yes. So the short answer is yes. So we clearly see the path that is being followed here, and it's probably going at a much faster pace here than it has elsewhere in the world, to be honest. But where some of the countries are, and especially if you look at the US, UK, etc., majority of the flows now, in terms of what goes into the funds, is coming through model portfolios. So over 50% of the flows is all through model portfolios. So that is, whether it's through an advisor, whether it's through DIY, that's just how investors think about investing in markets now. It's starting to happen here. So we're still starting to see a lot more of that. I think where we can see more of an evolution is also, yes, goals-based, but then overlaying that with kind of the risk tolerance piece, right? Because that's important. And we do a lot of this risk profiling. Risk profiling isn't just filling out a form, right? It's really, how do you behave? How do you react? How do you feel when the markets drop 10%? And if you feel a certain way that it doesn't give you sleep at night, then don't be 100% in equities. It's that kind of, I think, acknowledgement that investors will need to start developing. And I think as investors mature, they're seeing more of these market cycles here, and that's starting to come into play more and more. So I think we're definitely on that journey, and we're moving faster than most countries have moved, but there's still a long way to go.
Okay, now, we have about 4 or 5 minutes. Let me just go through some rapid fire questions with all of you. I've prepared some questions, and really let it be rapid fire. Sundeep, one product category you are most excited about?
Mid-cap.
Mid-cap. Navneet, active or passive?
Both.
Okay. Sid, India small cap or US equity?
Sorry, was it
India small cap or US equity? If you were to choose, which one would you choose?
I will go for US equity right now.
Yeah.
Controversial.
Navneet, would you agree?
India small cap.
Sundeep, what about you?
India all the way.
India all the way. Small cap versus mid cap versus large cap, Navneet. Which will generate more returns?
I mean, on a relative valuation, of course, large caps have underperformed, and I think foreign portfolio investors selling has also played some bit of role there. That looks attractive, but structurally, if you are investing money for the long term, I think India is a stock picker's paradise, and there are opportunities in the mid and small caps also.
Sandeep, one investment mistake that most Indians make even now. Don't say watching business channels, huh?
No. I think they start investing very late. I think this is a trend that what we have seen is, that people start investing very late. You need a nudge. It does not come naturally to people. But that's changing with time, and I think the new generation is much better off compared to when we started investing.
Said one financial habit every 25-year-old should adopt.
Financial habit?
Yes.
SIPs, 100%, no doubt about it at all.
Starting early, SIPs.
Yes.
Okay, now of course, Mr. Kumar is not here, but one regulation, Navneet, that you would change tomorrow.
One regulation?
That you would like to change tomorrow.
That you would like to change. So currently, Indian mutual funds can invest up to 10% of the capital of a company. I think over a period of time, we need to liberalize that more and allow the domestic funds to buy more. If you are a private equity, if you are an individual, if you are a corporate entity, if you are a global investor, institution, I mean, there are like Japanese banks who have taken a much higher stake in a bank. We manage money on behalf of millions of investors. So domestic investors getting a higher exposure to Indian corporates should be looked at.
Okay, now I have one question. I have written the first line. I want all three of you to write the second line. Okay, so the mutual fund industry right now, we are at about 80 lakh crores, right? Very hopefully we'll be at 100 lakh crore AUM soon. Now the question is, the 5 years from today or 10 years from today, Sandeep, let me start with you. The real success of mutual fund industry will not be crossing 200 lakh crore AUM. It will be your answer.
Every Indian household is a mutual fund investor.
Superb answer. Please, a round of applause for that answer. Navneet, your answer?
Yes, similar. How do we ensure that there is a greater participation in India's growth?
Greater participation in India's growth. Okay. Sid, what about you?
I'm running out of options, isn't it? Majority of the new flows are coming from beyond the top 30 cities.
Superb. Okay, one last question perhaps. In the world of AI, do you see that as a risk or as an opportunity? Navneet, because, I can go to a laptop, ask ChatGPT, give me the portfolio of Navneet Munot, and quickly tell my broker to invest in those stocks. So do you see AI as threat or opportunity?
So Navneet Munot using AI will be better than Navneet Munot without usage of AI. But whether AI can replace, I'm no longer a fund manager, but whether AI can replace an advisor or a fund manager, my answer is a clear no.
Oh, absolutely. Sandeep?
So I think AI is here to help us, but not replace us.
Not to replace us. AI will complement and not replace, right? Sid, would you agree with that?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. It's been a privilege having this conversation with you. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please, once again, a big round of applause to all our panelists here. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you to our speakers, and thank you, Anuj, for taking through this conversation.